you. Good afternoon. I'm certain that we would all agree that nothing about this past year has been typical or normal. Our teachers, our students, their families have all been challenged, tested, stretched, and maybe even stressed to some degree. NTI 2DL learning platform, once something we casually referenced, has now become the daily lifeline between home and school, between our teachers and their students. In December, we developed a plan built on the frame of work that had started under former Superintendent Cogg. A plan that was done in conjunction with our health department colleagues, was steeped in science and data that we had at the time. We've used metrics and measurable factors to help our families, employees, and community understand the weekly determinations that we have attempted to make 2 weeks in advance as requested by our families and employees. We have implemented the matrix so that our community, our teachers, our families could follow along as each week we looked at the data that just seemed to be taking over our community, our country. And each week we've had to very carefully consider all of that data in making determinations that were in the best interest of our students. We tried to look very carefully at the health and well-being of everyone involved because we realize that's important. We realize that it's important to keep our students healthy, and we realize that it's important for the adults because without the adults, school just simply cannot happen. So we've made determinations every Tuesday, and we've tried to send a message out following that determination so that families could follow along. We made a determination yesterday and we wanted to follow up today. And so we're going to review with you because as Ms. Steffendahl said, this is really the first press conference we've had in a long time, certainly the first one we've had since I've returned to the district. So we'll give you a little information and then we will open it up for questions and hopefully we'll get additional information out to our community so that we remain as clear and transparent as we can, and that our families and employees have the information they need to go forward. So at this time, I will turn it over to Mr. James McMillan. Mr. McMillan is Chief of High Schools and was a key architect of the matrix. Mr. McMillan.
Thank you, Dr. Helm. Ms. Johns, if you don't mind pulling up this slide with the color-coded stages for the matrix, please. Thank you, ma'am. I think most of you guys have become very familiar with this side of the FCPS COVID-19 in-person learning matrix. This is the side that is visible, has our 5 color stages, as well as we've mentioned in the past, runs our 7-day average new cases here in Fayette County. Our community, as Dr. Helm mentioned, our stakeholders that include our staff, our students, our parents, and even some of our business partners that collaborate with our schools and our programs, wanted to know a little bit more insight in the decision-making around in-person learning and remote learning. And so to do that, the matrix really has 2 sides to it. And again, this is the side that most of you guys are familiar with and is updated daily on our website, the COVID-19 matrix, as well as other platforms like social media. I know some of the families receive a text message update as well. The other side of the matrix, if you'll go to the next slide for me, is our transition factors. And oftentimes, I will say, most of my questions typically come from this side of the matrix because it's the side that oftentimes we don't look at or we don't see. And these factors are factors that we put together, these transition factors, in collaboration with our health department, with our operational staff, and our principals. Again, student safety and staff safety are always a priority. And as we've worked with our local health department, Dr. Humball, Dr. Winter, Debbie Bowen, as well as followed the advice from the CDC, from Dr. Stack, these factors such as governor's orders, our average daily cases, which again is captured in the color-coded side of the chart, our student and staff absences, which again, once we do come back in person, will be a transition factor that we will have to look at weekly. Our student and staff isolations and quarantines, which we have informed the board and our stakeholders, that is something that we work collaboratively with the health department. We do have a way that students and staff can call in or email in and log in a positive test or quarantine, but we also work with our health department in order to get that information so that it is accurate and timely when it comes to student and staff isolations. One of the biggest ones that as we move down, as our spread in Fayette County decreases, one of the big transition factors that I mentioned at the last board meeting, and I want to make sure I highlight today, is our operations and support considerations. We've talked about transportation, cafeteria staff, custodians. All of those operations and support considerations are what get our schools up and running. And so those are definitely things, as we have seen the cases drop and get into the red, and I'm really excited to say we're starting to approach orange, it's going to be a factor that we look to quite a bit. The last three, number 6, 7, and 8, those are three that were added by our health department. That's community and institutional spread. And so we look at things like, where is the spread in Fayette County? Is it in the general community, or is it in maybe colleges and universities? Is it in nursing homes? Is it in detention centers? And we talk about how that could be affecting the overall numbers. Community trends is the 7th factor. As you guys have been watching the COVID-19 matrix, we've seen that over the last couple of weeks decrease and head down. And then last but not least, this has been one that's been big in the media here recently, and we thank our partners at UK and the health department for their help in getting our staff prioritized and the governor for the vaccine, is that vaccine uptake. And so as we look at the decision that was made yesterday, a couple of the transition factors that I want to make sure that we highlight and bring attention to is the fact that our 7-day rolling average is below 100, and that's exciting news for our community. It's sitting at 97 here today. Our community transmission is trending down and continues to trend down. Our average cases in school-aged children, and again, this is something that we learned from our health department and we track through our transition factors. Those are also declining in the school-aged children. Our vaccine uptake is increasing, and many of our staff in Fayette County Public Schools have had that second dose. Institutional spread, because that's always one that we're asked about, whether the spread in Fayette County is in nursing homes, detention centers, and how our colleges and universities are affecting that. They are not having an impact. Our institutional spread is not having a large impact at all on the community spread. But finally, I think one of the big transition factors that came into the decision is that transition factor around our operations support staff. And so with that being said, I'll turn it over to Myron Thompson, who I believe is going to talk a little bit more about that factor.
Thank you, James. Lisa, were we going to bring up the slide now, or just? As you know, bus transportation is very critical to our district operations, and we essentially have 283 positions that are on the books that we try to keep staffed to make sure that we're getting our children to and from school. As of right now, we have 34 vacancies, give or take, and I need to move my cursor here. 23 drivers that are unable to return to work at this time for various reasons, medical, childcare issues. It's sort of a moving number. So as we've gotten closer to an in-person return, that number has started to tick up, which has given us some concern. And we're actively recruiting people to fill these positions because, again, we need to have these positions filled to be able to get all of our children back in school for in-person learning. Next slide, please. Essentially, for our driver situation, we need 217 drivers at the elementary level to cover all of the routes. We need 196 for the large A1 high school routes. 183 drivers are needed to run the 12 main middle school routes, and 67 drivers needed for our special programs and routes. And that is really one of the issues that we're up against right now, because being a district that is very, I guess, proactive in terms of providing opportunities for our district, we have a lot of different programs that our children have a lot of choices that our children can choose from. And that in and of itself is creating issues when we have driver shortages, being able to cover that. Amy, can I share my screen real quick?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Basically, this is sort of our staffing situation in terms of bus drivers. Per the 283 that I spoke of earlier, when you look at our vacancies sitting at about 34, 35, typically that runs about 15 to 20 per year. Right now, our leave in terms of people with medical leaves and other is at 24, and that typically runs between 5 and 7. So we're looking at a base staffing level of about 224, which is really thin in terms of covering that 217 need that we have at the elementary level. In terms of call-ins, in any given day, we will have upwards of 20 people that may call in for sickness or other reasons. And under other staff, there are other individuals within the Department of Transportation who have a CDL that are able to backfill those call-in positions that will be pulled out to cover those routes. So we're really getting close to not being able to fulfill the all-in that we need for our 258 all schools and A5 programs here. So basically, we have an active campaign of trying to get more people hired onto the district to backfill these positions to be able to get all of our children in. And so, Lisa, if you want to go, I think there's one more slide maybe, and I'll stop sharing. Or was that the last one for transportation?
That was the last one for transportation.
Thank you. So again, we're running into a driver shortage, and I think this is nothing that is not unknown across the country, to be honest with you. We've had a driver shortage for some time. We were able to sort of get that shored up in the 2019-2020 school year when we had our 1776 campaign, and we were almost, we were right at the 283 that we needed. But throughout the course of that year with COVID, that has slowly declined. And now that we are approaching an in-person return, we need to start getting more intentional about getting those positions filled. And it just takes time. A school bus driver is a safety sensitive position. So it is not something that we arbitrarily want people in those seats because they do carry our precious cargo every day. But again, we're looking at multiple opportunities and outreach in terms of partnerships to fill those positions, and would actively ask that anyone in the community that is looking for a good job, part-time job, to help the school district out to apply with the Fayette County Public Schools.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Appreciate that. So let me just remind everyone that we had originally in our planning outlined 4 phases. Never did we say that there would be a specific time frame for moving into each of those phases, nor was there ever the intention to have a certain amount of time in between each phase. We developed this plan in good faith, looking at data, thinking about what made the best planning going forward. We started with the youngest of our students because that was something that our partners at the health department even encouraged. They reminded us that, you know, little ones are basically in a pod all day, if you will. If you think about kindergarten students or, you know, any elementary grouping of students, for the most part, they are together all day with basically one teacher. They may have a special, they may go to music or art, but for the most part, they are with that one teacher all day. And so the thinking from both our health department colleagues and the research that we have done, and believe me, we have tried to read every article, every research document that someone has shared or that has come out. None of us have ever been through this before. And so we have had a lot of reading and catching up and thinking through to do. It was their determination, the health department and others, that you start with your youngest students. So we laid out a plan that had us bringing back K through 2. We thought oh my goodness, kindergarten is such an exciting time. And we wanted to make sure that those kindergarten students had an opportunity to begin the school year. We never imagined that we would still be this long at getting them back, but we knew that we wanted to start with our kindergarten students and our first graders and our second graders. We knew that we could get them into the building, help them to start learning the protocols and practices that are necessary to have a successful year. We also knew that they just needed the opportunity to experience school for the first time. So that was our thinking, that we would start there. We knew then that once we could get that small group in, then we could start layering the remaining grades onto there. So we said that our next phase would hopefully include grades 3 through 5, grade 6, because again, the sixth graders had left their elementary school last year, not even getting a chance to finish out the year. And here they are in a new grade, and they haven't even had an opportunity to set foot in their new school. So we thought, let's focus on grade 6, and the same thing for grade 9. Those 9th graders finished their 8th grade year in one school, not really being able to have a typical ending. And again, a group of students that have never had the opportunity to really experience this first year of high school. And we know that 9th graders are special for lots of reasons. And we wanted to make sure that we brought them back and had an opportunity for the staff at the high school to really just focus on them, to help them to appreciate their new school, to learn the rules, to learn the protocols, to get acclimated so that they would have a successful high school career. And then we wanted to include our 12th graders, because we know the joys of your senior year is just something that no senior should have to not experience. And so we were very intentional about those particular grades. And we made every effort to be both intentional and transparent. But as Mr. Thompson said, when the plan on paper, you start to try to put it into action, and you realize that one of your considerations, one of your transition factors is just not cooperating or is presenting a challenge, we have to be flexible. We didn't feel like we could move forward with a plan that we weren't comfortable would be as smooth as we had hoped it would be. So our intention was originally and the determination that was made was that K2 would begin this week on the 16th, and they would have Tuesday through Friday to really, again, get acclimated in their school. And we went on and said, okay, they're only going to have 4 days this first week, so we'll give them a second week so that they can truly become acclimated. The elementary schools, they're so important because they lay the foundation for the rest of a child's education. So we knew that that was important to get a really good, strong start. We would be able to determine what works, what doesn't work, what do we need to rethink or reconsider or reconfigure. The weather just did not cooperate with us. For weeks and months, we've been looking at high numbers of cases. And it just seems like right at the time when the cases started coming down, the numbers caused us to be very excited that, okay, we're finally coming out of this. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and it isn't another train. Well, guess what? There was a train, and it was called winter weather. And we just simply got slammed. So we had a snow day yesterday. We then decided to make the call for virtual for the remainder of this week in the hopes that we could start K2 next week. The weather, again, seems to be rearing its very interesting head, and we may not be able to do that as well. So we had to take that into consideration when we were making the determination yesterday. So we said, what if on Monday we still can't start with K2? What if this second round of winter weather keeps us from calling it so that we can go in. So we thought, let's give them next week. Let's go ahead and say we're gonna, affirm that we're gonna do K2 for next week. And then for the week following, which would be the first week in March, let's give the elementary folks and students an opportunity to have a full week, because just in case we can't get in Monday or we can't get in Tuesday, let's just say we can't get back until Wednesday, then that would give the elementary students, families, and teachers an opportunity to have one strong week before we start layering and bringing in additional students. So some have said, well, why did you decide on 3 through 5 in the middle of the week? Well, again, we're trying to layer, and it gives then the students and the families and the teachers an opportunity to start on a Wednesday, have a solid Wednesday, have a solid Thursday, and a solid Friday, making sure that they're good, they're comfortable. And then the following week, hopefully we can call it for everyone, at the elementary level, and we would truly have the elementaries back in. We know that the phase was to include grade 6 and 9 and 12. And we are still very, very committed for those students to be brought back into the mix. We have not taken them out of phase 2. Someone said, well, if you move them to phase 3, then phase 3 to phase 4. No, we have 4 phases. Now we may have to implement the phases in sections, but it is still 4 phases. We are very hopeful that after we have an opportunity to run the routes next week, fingers crossed, hopefully, that we can do K2 next week, that we have affirmation, that we have the drivers, that everyone is set, we're comfortable, that we can move on. Then we can announce that, okay, we're comfortable that we can bring 6 and 9 and 12, and hopefully we can do it in that order, and we can do it with very little time lost in between. So we have no intention of trying to drag this out intentionally. We have no intention of not being as transparent as possible. It's just that every plan that is written on paper doesn't always unroll or unfurl the way that you want it to. We did not see the weather coming. We just simply did not. We did not realize that our driver shortage would be as dramatic as it is. So rather than burst through with a plan that has too many holes for us to feel comfortable in rolling out, we said, okay, let's just pause. Let's do a part of this and then make sure that we're good and then move forward. And that's what we have attempted to do. So, we may not have explained the 6, 9, and 12. We want to make sure that families know we hear you. We know that students want to get back in school, and that's such a wonderful thing. That's an exciting thing. We also know that there are some students that are doing absolutely incredibly wonderful with the virtual platform. We know that there are others that are not. And so we are trying to be mindful of both sets of students. There are parents who are saying, you all are moving way too fast. And there are other parents and students that are saying, you are moving way too slow. We're having to balance the health, the safety, and the well-being of all of our students and all of our employees, making decisions that are sound, making decisions that we hope and that we are fairly comfortable will work. And we just simply can't rush through simply because we said A 2 months ago, and A just isn't allowing us to implement it because of some part of the plan just isn't working the way that we had hoped. We have every intention of trying to get every single student back just as quickly as we possibly can, but we have to do it with the understanding that we have factors that are just incredibly impactful to the overall plan. And we have to go through it very incrementally. We have to do it very intentionally, and we have to do it very sensitively as we can. So hopefully this information has been helpful. I know there may still be questions, and we stand ready to answer those questions. We thank very much our families for their patience, their continued willingness to partner with us. We know that you've had a heavy lift this year, and we appreciate you and applaud you for that lift. And we look forward to having you turn over the work that you've been doing all year to transition that back to our staff. And our teachers have been wonderful. They all have had to learn new techniques. They've had to be more creative, more resourceful than they've ever had to be before. And we know that you join us in saluting them and the work that they've done to get us this far. Again, hopefully the light is close. Surely this weather can't stay very much longer. And, our hope is that we move forward. So again, K2 will be next week. And we want to make sure that families are understanding and appreciative of that. If any family has a question, please reach out to your school to get clarification or to get additional information. So with that, I will stop, and we will, Lisa, I think we will take questions.
We only had one question in the chat from Stu, and I think we've taken care of that. Are there any other questions? Is there anyone who wants to ask Dr. Helm a question, or James, or Myron? For the team, WKYT is asking if we have a percentage of teachers that have been fully vaccinated. I can go ahead and take that one. Because we are working with our wonderful partners at UK, the process of signing up for the vaccination goes through them. And then it becomes a HIPAA situation for us to find out which of our employees have been vaccinated. So when we first surveyed our teachers and staff, we had roughly 77% of our staff that was interested in receiving the vaccination. And we're hopeful that even more of them decided to take this opportunity and go ahead and get those vaccinations. We do know that UK has done thousands of vaccinations, but they can't tell us which of those were public and which of those were private employees. Channel 36, WTVQ, has asked, when could we potentially see every grade back in school?
If only we had that crystal ball. Like I said, we are going to do it just as intentionally and as quickly as our factors will allow us to do it. We just simply can't give you a definitive date, but please know that we meet almost daily. We are working and looking, and we are considering so many other possibilities, so many options. We've thought, what if we try this? Okay, well, what about this? We are looking at every single possibility. Everything from, asking, who can just drive their own kids to school so that we don't have to be so dependent on the number of drivers, because I think, as Mr. Thompson shared, becoming a driver is not an easy proposition. You've got to pass a health, a physical, you've got a psychological to pass, you've got to have a CDL, and it's got to be a CDL that has a certain certification. I've learned more than I need to know about CDL certifications. I'll probably be signing up to take that test next week myself, as maybe some others will be doing. So we just simply cannot give you a date, but please know that we are striving to get every student back. We want every student to have some portion of this school year that is typical and is as normal as possible.
Valerie from the Lexington Herald Leader would like us to unmute her. Amy, can you help me with that? She said she's on the phone.
I saw one question that asked if there would be a virtual option remaining for families. And yes, any family that has chosen virtual will have that option available to them for the remainder of the year.
Valerie, I've turned on the ability for you to unmute. I'm not sure with being on your phone. Hopefully you can do that on your own now.
So you can also press *6, I believe is the button combination. If you cannot find the mute button, unmute button, *6 should unmute it for you.
I think we've all enhanced our technology skills this year in ways that we never even dreamed of.
This is Valerie. Can you hear me?
Yes, Valerie.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify, and thank you for this opportunity. I wanted to clarify there are 34 school bus driver vacancies at this point.
That is correct.
Okay. And what about bus monitors? Do we know that? And child nutrition workers?
About 48 child nutrition, and I do not have a firm number on monitors at this time, but I will get that for you.
Okay. The question that's been posed to me a couple times today, and Marlene spoke to it, but I just want to clarify that will the middle and the high school students be brought back this year for in-person learning?
We have every intention, good intention, honest intention of bringing back every student. We are, as I said earlier, we are making every attempt to do that in a way that, makes sure that we are respecting and caring for the health and safety of all of our students, families, and employees. And again, if the weather would just go away, and we will continue to work to address those transition factors that are currently presenting a challenge to us, and we will make every effort to move forward. It may mean that we come out with some really creative ideas on how to do it. You may say, where'd that come from? Well, we're going to be thinking and listening and trying perhaps some things that maybe we haven't tried before to get all of our students back. But every single student in Fayette County Public Schools deserves the opportunity to be back in their school, in their classroom, and learning via the mode that they and their families have selected for them. If it is in person, we want to get them back in school. If it is to remain virtual for lots of different reasons, we want to honor and respect that, and to ensure that whether you're virtual or in person, you are getting an excellent education, because that's what we pride ourselves on.
I've seen some comments from particularly seniors who are hopeful that they get the rites of passage back this year. Proms, dances, whatever activities it might be, graduation and in-person graduation. What have you all thought about that, and what can we tell the kids at this point?
Yeah, Mr. McMillan is just smiling from ear to ear, so I'll let him take this one.
Well, first of all, let me say
Okay.
that it's nice to hear from you, Valerie, again. Let me first say that I have two daughters of my own. I have a first grader and a sixth grader, and I want them back in school ASAP. So please know that there are many colleagues who are fighting to do the things and make sure that our students are back in safe as soon as possible. And I'm one of those. And it's ironic that you brought up prom and you brought up graduation, because just today I was able to have a conversation with all of my principals at our principal cadre that we had this morning. And two of the hot topics that we did discuss were options for prom and graduation. And I want the community to know that we have gone ahead and we have, what'd you say?
Reserved.
Oh, sorry. We have reserved, we have reserved Rupp Arena. And so we have those dates locked in. And we're hoping to, well, to be honest, I'm hoping that as we get closer, the capacity will increase. At last meeting with the Rupp Arena organizers, we had about 15%. I think they're at 15% capacity. So we're hoping that will increase, but that is on the books. The other thing that we did talk about today was prom. And we do know that it is a rite of passage. I like the way that you described that. And we do have a committee at each of our schools who are talking about some options. We've discussed prom with our health department, and we've gotten feedback from them on whether or not they feel like it's safe and sort of what are the options that possibly could take place if we were to have any type of in-person dances or activities, as you see right now with sports and extracurriculars. And so what our principals are going to be doing, and I greatly appreciate the work that all of our principals, elementary, middle, and high, have put into multiple plans that we've put in place. But we are working on a plan that will hopefully, as the weather starts to warm up, will hopefully see us be able to do something and have a rite of passage for our seniors before they graduate. So yes, ma'am.
So what is the health department saying right now? Is it going to be possible to have those proms? And I'm just asking directly.
Well, a lot of the guidance that we get from everyone is recommendations. And of course, Dr. Humbaugh and Dr. Winter have been very direct with us about the safety and well-being of students and staff having to come first. And so as we get plans together, as we did with sports, as we've done with athletics, we typically take those plans to the health department, and it is a collaborative teamwork sort of experience where we look at those, they poke holes in them, and then we kind of have dialogue about what we can pull off. And we're going to do the exact same thing with any plans around graduation, around prom. Debbie Bowen and the health department are going to continue to be our partners in making sure that we're keeping the health and safety of students and staff first.
And so the strongest thing we can say is that you all are trying to work on plans with principals for possible in-person proms.
Yes, Ms. Spears. We can dig into the question, but ultimately we've got several ideas. We want to get them on paper. We want to make sure that our prom committees and our teachers and those involved in that work have a solid plan. And then the principals and I met today, like I said, and we're going to come back together, discuss those plans, and then those plans will go before our health department for us to have them as a key partner in that collaboration on making them happen.
Okay. One more question, and that is, can you reiterate, or someone reiterate for our parents and kids, why the 6th, 9th, and 12th graders will not be brought back on the 1st through the 3rd, because that's kind of the thought. What they won't be brought back at the same time as the 3rd and 5th graders.
Well, as we said earlier, we have to consider so many factors. And at this particular time, our transition factors, specifically having the number of transportation workers and food service workers that we need, is just not where we need it to be in order to feel comfortable in including those grades at this particular time. As I said earlier, that does not mean that we won't be able, let's just say next week, to say, okay, the weather has cooperated. We have now had an opportunity to see our transportation plan from paper to reality, and it's working. And we think that we can. So we have not moved 6, 9, and 12 into another phase. We were just not able yesterday to say that on the 3rd of March or the 1st of March, that we were ready to include those particular grades as the ones coming back. That was what we said yesterday. Each Tuesday, we will make another determination. And this coming Tuesday, we will make a determination, and it will depend on all of those transition factors and more. So hopefully we're closer than we've ever been to getting people back, but it's just not an easy proposition. And we know people are disappointed. We are disappointed. We are so very disappointed. But the weather just simply did not allow us to do what we had hoped to do so that we would feel comfortable in moving forward.
And do you all, I talked to a school bus driver this morning who said that he thought one problem was because of COVID, drivers getting the training and the licensing that they needed. Are you all aware of that? And is there anything that the district is doing to help out with that? Is that a valid concern?
We run classes continuously, Val, to get people the necessary licensure. So we have classes and we've had people come in, but there's just a significant attrition that happens during that process for various reasons. Some people get so far into it and decide it's not for them. Other people can't pass components of the requirements. And so just different things happen from time to time. But we do have a very robust training program to get people skilled up and licensed appropriately to handle the position. But the COVID itself has impacted a little bit in terms of scheduling. We can't have large rooms with a ton of people within those spaces, but we've been making it work.
What about licensing? Or is there any holdup there?
Again, we work with the Kentucky State Police and we're sort of at their mercy in terms of scheduling on that, Val. I'm not aware of anything specifically that has held up us getting people the necessary licensing, but I will verify that.
Thank you. Yeah. That's all I have.
We also, thank you, Val. We have also received a question from Mario with Spectrum News. He would like to ask, is May 18th still the tentative last day of classes for Fayette County Public School students? And if so, has there been any discussion to extend the school year to accommodate additional time for in-person learning and activities?
That's a loaded question. It's one of the reasons why we have been so protective of our instructional days, because March 19th was the last day, I guess, that we had built into the calendar for inclement weather. So by taking yesterday as a inclement weather or snow day, that pretty much says we're done with the days that we had built into the calendar. So any day that we take in addition, if we take any other additional inclement weather or other kinds of days, that will begin to impact the end of the school year. And as Mr. McMillan said, he has reserved the Rupp Arena for graduations. We've reserved 3 dates. And if we start extending the school year, that means that we're going to lose one of those dates, which then is going to cause us to have 3 graduations in a day rather than 2. And we can do that. But we want our seniors to be able to have the graduations that they've always planned for and dreamed of. And if we start adding additional days to the end of the year, keep in mind, our employees and our students have been in school. We haven't been on vacation, so they're in school each and every day. Our teachers, our school employees are working each and every day. So at the end of the year, they're all going to need a break. They're all going to need an opportunity to just, sit back and relax a little bit, because in Then we're just going to turn around in a couple of weeks and begin what we're calling our Summer Ignite, which is our incredibly well-planned summer program. There are going to be 3 sessions. We have talked about that a little bit at the board meeting, and we're going to fully explain that at the March 22nd board meeting. There will be a full presentation of that so that families and students can begin to think about what summer programs, activities they want to engage in. We think it's time to get through this year and to do so with as much expediency as we can, but to do it with the health and safety of our students in mind.
Great questions, everyone. Are there any other questions? I don't want to miss anyone or have anyone miss this opportunity. Well, it appears that you have answered all the questions at this time. And Dr. Helm, would you like to close this out?
Just thank you again. I think this will be very helpful in getting information out to not only our students and families, but to our wonderful community that is so very supportive of the Fayette County Schools. We truly are a district of excellence, and we want to continue to support our students and families in the manner in which they deserve to be supported. It's just unfortunate that this week did not roll out the way that we wanted it to, but we understand that that was just not something in our control. So we will move forward. We are excited. We have good plans, and our teachers and our school employees are so very excited to welcome our students back. And I think all of us are excited to hear the hallways again ringing with their voices, their laughter, to see the twinkling of the eyes. And then for the students, like I said, for the students and families that continue to choose remote learning, that learning is strong, that teaching is strong. Excellence is our word, it's our mantra, and we hope to live up to that. So again, we thank you for your patience. We thank you for your continued support.
Thank you, everyone. If anyone needs a copy of the recording, just send me an email and I'll make sure you get it.